Powered Rev Ops, where the learning never stops. Hosted by Sandy Robinson, she's leveling up your ops. From data to deals, she reveals how AI really pops. Real talk, real playbooks, no fluff, just jaw drop. So plug in, turn it up, let the insights flow. You're tuned to AI Powered Rev Ops. Now let's start the show.
Olga is a VP of Revenue Operations at BirdEye, bringing nearly 20 years of experience from leadership roles at Tiger Connect and Cornerstone On Demand. Today, we're digging into how to move beyond the AI hype to build a practical, results-driven AI strategy for GTM and revenue operations. From her early days selling pagers to now architecting global tech stacks, Olga understands how to turn complex data into a high-performing revenue engine. All right, Olga. Welcome to the show. I'm super excited to have you here. As I mentioned, I know we've connected so much over the last couple of years. Why don't you tell our guests a little bit about yourself?
Excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. So you've told the story pretty much. I started selling pages. What was it, 20 something years ago? I've been with operations what feels like pretty much my entire life, my entire career. I started in marketing operations, marketing technology, and ever since stayed within operations, sort of following the customer journey from marketing ops. I transitioned into sales operations and analytics, pipeline management, pipeline analytics, and go-to-market tech stack. I now manage global revenue operations teams. At my second VP of RevOps role here at BirdEye, where we run global RevOps and we run true RevOps, not just sales operations disguised as revenue operations. We're covering the entire customer journey, and now with AI sprinkles on top of it, a lot of automations and AI flows. So let's get really practical talking about it. Very excited to go through that with you.
Love it. I appreciate the background and really appreciate the breadth of what you do. So Olga doesn't, just have a small team. She has many teams and it's global. And there's a lot of complexities in the coordination and things that you're doing. And so I can't wait to jump into like how AI is making that even more fun. But tell me a little bit, tell me a personal interest or like a fun fact maybe your work friends don't know about you.
So we talked about my first job, right? I was actually selling pagers. That gives out my age a little bit. I don't know.
Hey, I sold Yellow Pages advertising, so I'm
Right,
completely with you
kids
there.
these days, they're like, maybe it's coming back now. Maybe pager's gonna come
Right.
back now. But fun fact, I'm really into fashion and styling. I love mixing up fashions and some edgy elements. Give me a tulle skirt and a leather jacket, and I'm in my happy place. I love traveling, and I'm kind of obsessed planning my trips around food and places I want to visit that go viral for food. So there's that. I live for travel and fashion, and RevOps, of course.
And RevOps, yeah. So is that like Michelin level? Like, are you on that kind of level with your food searching?
Sometimes, but I go from, street foods and, night markets to nice fancy restaurants. I also have two kids, so I want to be careful, when I choose where I go with them,
Versus with your kids, where you go without your kids.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it. So, you know, yeah, obviously AI has been around for a long time, but we've had this the evolution and this massive growth with ChatGPT over the last couple of years and everything. So maybe take us back a little bit in how did you get started jumping into AI, even if it's not RevOps space,
Yeah.
just in general.
And obviously, I did not start with AI and RevOps. I started as a user for my personal use cases. I was curious, right? It started, as you said, starting popping up a couple years ago everywhere. So I was curious to test it out, started with ChatGPT. and using it for my everyday leverage, planning and researching trips, looking up some places to go to, pressure testing some narratives for my presentations at work, um, and then turning ideas into some frameworks for my projects at BirdEye, writing draft emails faster. Right. So I sort of transitioned from my personal use cases every day to how I can use it at work. And once I felt that the time savings personally zoomed out, and I thought, if this helps me think and execute faster, it can absolutely reshape how my teams run operating rhythms on a day to day. That layered with all of the content and feedback and tips and tricks that we see on LinkedIn and we hear at podcasts just ignited, this transition sort of from experimentation to execution now with AI.
Yeah, that's really interesting because until I think you get a flavor and dive in and really start to see the capabilities, like, and obviously if you have a RevOps mind, you can kind of just see, oh, I know where we can tighten up a process and tighten up a spot and things like that. So how did you translate that? So you said a little bit about, kind of calls and things, but like how did you translate that? So you're getting your frameworks and everything, and it sounds like you use a little bit of it there on the strategy side, but how did you first start translating that over into, what applying it, in a RevOps from a RevOps perspective?
The in any adoption, right, it goes in sort of waves
Mhm.
or phases, right? And we do adopt it here in phases as well, right? As we said, the first phase is personal productivity, and in many cases and in many companies, what I'm seeing right now, AI still lives in your sort of personal productivity folder. You write emails, you summarize notes, you do some research, you fine tune your narratives, but it's more for your personal use. The power of it, it's actually translating from your personal use into your, workflow acceleration. We are now on the second phase here at BirdEye that
Mhm.
I would call like the workflow acceleration, where we're working on the sales conversation intelligence, uh, generating follow-up emails or the next steps automatically. We're also now doing QA on deals automatically using AI. We are reviewing mutual action plans using AI. We're generating faster enablement content, and we are very focused on what we need to run enablement on because we are clear on the gaps, on the themes that we are lacking, drilling down to each particular rep. So this is where we are right now. And I think the third wave, which is the future state for us, and it's probably going to be next year, is the operating system level, where you do have AI agents sort of sitting next to human team members. You think of your AI as agents, as your team members that help you standardize quality, detect risk on the deals earlier, and overall making your go-to-market process more consistent, right? We're not there yet. I see a lot of hype about AI agents, team members. I want to be cautious, and I think this is what we talk about: garbage in, garbage out, right? Before you go full blown on AI, you need to ensure that the fundamentals are consistent and super tight before you go full on, AI agent
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
revenue.
the same rules apply, right? The data, the foundation, the process has to be clean, it has to be tight. So just to summarize, you've broken this down into in terms of AI adoption is you're starting out as kind of like your personal productivity, then this phase of like workflow acceleration, so automating certain things like emails, summaries, follow-ups, things like that. And then more of an operating system where maybe you have full deployment of agent force that's handling, all kinds of stuff, right? Tell me a little bit. I like that. I like the way you broke that down. So I think that's really powerful, and we'll definitely summarize that in the show notes. You talked about the workflow acceleration and some of the things that you're doing. I heard you say the call summaries, the emails, but I also heard you say mutual action plans. And like that's always a bear to solve, especially in enterprise sales, right? You've got things the client need or the prospect needs to do, things that you need to do, and getting those maps enabled. There's tools, that can do it with deal rooms and stuff, but like what are you doing there? Like how are you applying AI? What are you automating there? Like that's
Yeah.
intriguing.
That is my favorite topic, and if BirdEye executives are listening to this, I'm pretty sure they're smiling. Mutual action plans, or MAPs, as we call
Mhm.
them, has been the word of 2025, and it's going to be the
Okay.
word for 2026. This is the focus. There is if two things. If I were to narrow down to like two things that are working right in enterprise world to generate pipeline and to stick to your forecast, is the mutual action plan. That is the path. That is the roadmap, and that is the ultimate source of truth and events. Right. So there's a lot of focus for us around these two things. In 2026.
Events like trade shows and stuff like that. Like,
People want to talk to people.
yeah.
Turns out
In-person
Zoom
events. Yeah.
meetings, yeah,
Conferences, trade shows. Yeah. Gotcha.
it
Okay.
turns out Zoom
Same
meetings don't
here.
cut it anymore, right? We,
Hmm.
reps and prospects, customers, they want to engage in person, and it does work. So I'm happy about that because I'm also a very much,
Shaking
person.
hands and kissing babies. I think COVID like ruined us for,
Yep,
4 years. So now everybody wants to be out
going
in
going back, right?
conferences. Yeah. I love it.
So on the mutual action plans,
Hmm.
last year it was a lot of manual effort for us. First of all, we created the framework on when the mutual action plan needs to be introduced for what type of deals. We created very tight criteria and trained and rolled out it into the world of our sellers. We are requiring mutual action plans for new business deals as well as expansion deals over certain size. For the deals that we deem as large deals, we want to have a mutual action plan outlined and shared with the customer. So there's certain criteria for each mutual action plan. There is a template, of course, right? So we watch reps making sure that the template is populated, it is shared with the customer, so it becomes truly mutual, and it's being handled and managed as an instrument that would get us to the clear forecasting to ensure deals are not slipping, de-risking the deals, understanding, does legal need to be involved? Does a security review need to happen? What are the key stakeholders? Is the person who are we talking to is the one who's going to be signing? What we have discovered that in most times our customers don't fully understand their process internally, right? So it very much helps in early stages to go through this map, essentially, lay it all out, assign the stakeholders from our side, from the customer side, and then stick to the plan.
Hmm.
So it is a strong instrument. There was a lot of change management last year where we had to go through sort of mental block of introducing and using mutual action plans. Now everyone's fully bought in, and if in 2025 for revenue operations team that was 100% manual QA
Hmm.
of mutual action plans. I personally looked at mutual action plans and figured if it was shared, not shared, who it was shared with, etc. Now that we have Gong, we implemented on board Gong, it can actually, derive that from conversations. I still want the document to be there and be shared, the template filled in, etc. But if we're thinking mutual action plan is the ultimate source of truth, I also want to listen to conversations and see what is being mentioned, what is being brought up, what are the risks, right? So now I have AI inspecting all of the conversations in the deal and then telling me, do we have a path to success? Was this plan mentioned, shared, aligned to? And if there are any risks, bring me those risks. I have an AI field that does it and summarizes it for us. And it's not for me, it's also for a sales manager, right? And
Yeah.
it's for a sales leader. It helps them on their one-on-ones. It helps them on their pipeline reviews, to surface, those risks of the deals or any sort of potential red flags. Say we need to pull in our legal team, or we need to pull in our finance team or some tech team, to help resolve the issues early.
So, so you're using Gong's built-in AI and you're extracting, you're asking it whatever keywords or key points from the map that you have, you fed it some level of information. It's pulling that out of the calls and then it's pushing it into a field in Salesforce.
Correct. Yeah. Gong
And
recently
then,
produced AI fields,
mhm,
which is essentially a prompt. Behind that
yep,
field there's a prompt. You can
yep.
ask anything.
Okay. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that. That's pretty awesome. So is it, and it's just tying to one call, or is it
It's
looking across
everything,
the
right?
calls?
Because Gong is connected to your Zoom, to your
Right.
calendar, to your email, to any sales loft, right? So we
Mm-hmm.
have this calls are also, some of the calls are being recorded or handled in sales loft. So the entire infrastructure of activity that is happening around Salesforce, everything that's connected to Salesforce, connected to Gong. So going back into the history, example, real life example. This morning, we do have calls that are called big deal reviews. That's
Mm-hmm.
when we review the large deals that are set to close. And that's when we look into the mutual action plan. And I'm looking at this deal, and Gong tells me, looks like there's no compelling event, right? Looks like
Mm-hmm.
the urgency is not there, because I'm also using Gong to sort of look into the medic and medpic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there urgency, compelling event, etc.? So I'm asking Gong, is there a compelling event? And the Gong is saying there's a compelling event because the champion's wife's due date is on March 17th.
Mm-hmm.
So the champion really wants to sign, like, and I'm asking the rep, is that true? And they're like, yeah, that is a compelling event. Because that person's going to go on paternity leave and they want to close this deal by this date.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it can go into, like, it is very accurate and actually, mapping to your sales methodology or to the
Mm-hmm.
questions that you sort of prompt behind these fields.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Um, that's great because I think some of their competitors just look at like one call at a time, and I think it's, you know being able to look across the calls and factor in all of the information that is critical, right? Otherwise, how do you do it? But
Yeah.
I like that, just the maps, because that's just a continued problem, right? I mean, in every enterprise organization is understanding the status of the map. And if you have AI giving us all of these indicators and telling us, like, hey, you've never even mentioned a map. So I don't know how you're saying there's a map, you
Exactly.
know?
Exactly.
Um, and then in terms of the actual like facilitation of it with the prospect, are you using a deal room to do it? Or are you just sending them a spreadsheet? Like how is that actually being facilitated, or a project tool? Like what are you
Yeah.
doing there?
No, we are simple people. We use
Mhm.
Google Sheets. right? Of
Okay.
course, we do have high spot, and some of our
Hmm.
reps would create a deal room in there. I don't require a deal room. If
Okay.
we're working with a large enterprise account, of course, a rep would want to do a deal room, put on some case studies there, some other things. Um, this is up to them.
Hmm.
It's nice to have. I don't enforce it, but I do enforce within that deal room to still have a mutual action plan, either Google Sheets. Some organizations do not use Google, so that would be like a SharePoint or some
Yeah.
other sheet with the same template, essentially.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty standard. I know like some companies have like sharing, permissions issues externally. So like we're solving for that like within a deal room, so you can have that external sharing capabilities and things like that. But yeah, no, that's great. I appreciate the diving into that, because I think that's the real world work of how you can just implement little pieces of AI that make a difference, that makes it easier for everybody, right? Because they're seeing it there, and the sales rep doesn't have to fill something out. I mean, they have to fill out the actual map, but they don't have to check a box and fill out a field, right? You've
Yeah.
got that handled. And you're giving the right deal indicators up of, is this an accurate forecast? Because I mean, there's so much to mutual action plans. We were just talking about it today. Like, if if it scares off your client that much, then you're probably going to lose them anyway, right? So the sooner you start asking them to do things and taking some level of accountability, the better off you're going to be. But anyway,
And
it's good
yeah,
stuff.
and we had the same sort of pushback. We worked through this. When you make it truly mutual and you do it as a screen share, when a sales rep, on a call with their customer, with their prospect, they bring up a Google sheet or Excel sheet, whatever, right? And they're like, okay, let me walk me through your internal processes. Let's
Hmm.
start building this together. Let's make it truly mutual. Let's start building this.
Hmm.
And we can go from the bottom. By what date, time, quarter you need the solution to be live,
Yep.
and
Yeah,
then use it.
100%. Yep, your reverse timeline right there, and that falls right into MedPick. So really great stuff. And I'm assuming enablement then rolls up under you as well, under revenue
Correct.
operations. Yeah, your
Yes.
enablement, and that's critical for folks listening. I know every organization is different, and enablement is in different places, but it is really important to be thinking of that aspect when you're rolling things out. And even if it's me, myself, and I, you're a RevOps team of one, like that type of thing has to be considered. Or going back to that adoption, it's never really going to happen. But I love your approach on that. And this idea of the future state being the operating system you have mentioned, that's like a where you're going towards. Are you looking to build in agent force and things like that in the future?
Agent Force is on Salesforce. Agent Force.
Yes.
I don't know. Is
Yeah.
anyone buying Agent Force?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's obviously a lot of different ways to handle automation with agents, whether it's through Agent Force
I would
or
love. I would love.
homegrown type of things. There's
If,
it's build or buy, right? Like
yeah,
that kind of thing.
exactly. I'm not sure about Agent Force. I honestly have not heard any positive feedback around, and it scares me to not have full control over the cost that is associated with any of the agent stuff. But if a girl can dream, I would love to have an agent that deduplicates in
Hmm.
Salesforce
But
and
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then cleans it up, and normalizes states and countries. Like, let's start with, again, fundamentals and foundations. And we've spent years and years battling this, and it's always a manual work. And if I were to have agents and do some things, I wouldn't go into like forecasting accuracy for agents. I don't think we are there yet, but managing my database,
Mm-hmm.
cleanliness,
Mm-hmm.
that's, I would love to do. Archiving people that we have not talked to in the last 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe they left the company, and just remove them from the view, because I want salesperson on the account to only see contacts that are relevant, not all 500, that we accumulated
Right.
the last 10 years. So if I were to sort of think about what's next in the operating rhythm world for AI and the agents that I would build and bring, that would be, I would start with the database, like
Yeah.
first principles.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, especially given the maturity at your organization and the amount of, I can only imagine, even with the tightest governance, there's you have to get rid of stuff, you have to archive and everything. Yeah, I think that's huge. We're just at the beginning stages. I rolled out Salesforce in April of 2025. So
Baby
very,
Salesforce.
it's a baby. It's a baby. Right now, it's really building up and governance and putting tight controls in place so nobody can. Because like the second we turn Salesforce on, put a clean download, and then all of a sudden, like reps were adding duplicates. So we're like, whoop, we shut it off right away. So those are the kind of things, and we're in the early stages of Clay build out, so we can automate our all of our enrichment and putting the API keys into the Clay workflow,
Oh yeah.
LinkedIn ads, stuff like that. So that's what we're really focused on right now is our segmentation and dialing in our database. But we don't really have. We're lucky because we're new. We're baby Salesforce, so there's not a lot of cleanup to do. It's just determine what to put in and what fields do we want in there and how do we want to score things, and so it's fun to kind of have a blank canvas a little bit.
I miss those times.
I know there's pros and cons to all of it, right? Like there's pros and cons to everything, but we can't build it fast enough, so that's always the challenge. So how is, we think about AI, just even like for me in the last year, how has it changed your day to day? And you can talk personal work, however you want to think about it, but like just your overall motion, how has it changed it?
Last year we talked about how AI is going to amplify our world, and it intensified my world, man. Like, it intensified my world because the expectation from the leadership and from everyone now is scale with AI. Things that maybe took you a day or two last year supposed to take you 10 minutes right now, right? So everything becomes way more intense, right? So on the good side, though, I spend less time on drafts, slides, emails, analysis summaries, right? AI helps me analyze why deals are being lost or slipping or stale, or why certain reps are not performing. I can just push my entire transcripts from Gong there and compare good reps versus bad reps. So this is great. On the other side, it also raised my bar towards me and towards my team, right? Because AI can iterate so fast. I'm less tolerant to fuzzy thinking, sloppy execution, and mine included, right? I'm asking my teams to be resourceful, to behave like they own it, and be creative. Think outside the box.
It's interesting that you talk about that, intensifying, because it really does. There's an expectation of, oh, it can just be turned on, or even just in hiring FTEs, like going through budget. Well, you don't need the headcount because you can just have AI do it. Well, there's still people who have to set up AI and run AI and things like that. So it does intensify. I think on some of it is how you're planning and how you're budgeting. You can have, insane efficiencies, but you have to be strategic about it. And it's not just to flip the switch. I can totally relate to the intensified piece because it's like, oh yeah, we don't need a person to do that. We just have AI do it. It's like, well,
Yeah.
yes, but you still need a human in the loop. You need somebody to build it. You need the tech. You need more of a tech person, so there's definitely trade-offs there. Are you experiencing any of that in terms of like budgeting and headcount, things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. For example, we rolled out Clay, right? It was just on our first use case. For that, I had to sort of stand up the go-to-market engineering team, which I'm very proud of. Folks that have been with RevOps, they're more technical ones, and they sort of volunteered to become go-to-market engineers, and it's going well. And the expectation from the leadership was that, hey, well, if you have all these tools, you probably don't need people. And what you're describing is exactly so. We are not there yet. I think all of our jobs are at risk, to be clear. It's not just analyst or IC level jobs are at risk. All of our jobs are at risk when it comes to AI. Give it 1-2 years, I'm pretty sure there's AI will be running your RevOps strategy, buying tools, implementing tools, and all of those things will be happening. We are not there yet, and we also need to be cognizant of the cost. I can replace people with Claygen.
Mm-hmm.
Agent's going to be more expensive at the end of the day, people, or Agent Force. You want me to roll out Agent Force? Every time a sales rep will go and ask to modify a quote or add a discount, it's going to cost you
A credit or many.
you don't know how many. You
Yeah.
don't know how many credits it's going to cost.
Right.
Like, that's
Right.
what throws me off with all of this AI
Mm-hmm.
features. Like, if we really want to, like, people you can plan, and like your subscription costs you can plan. Now everyone's sort of
Mm-hmm.
moving towards this outcomes and credits. I cannot plan those, and I'm very careful with Clay. I'm very careful on how we use this sort of
Mm-hmm.
AI tokens and subscriptions, because very quickly you can just go through your
Burn
entire
through it. Yeah.
yeah. So I know that is the expectation from the management, but
Mm-hmm.
I also want to be like, you move fast, but you move fast with focus, and you
Mm-hmm.
calculate your risks, right?
Yeah.
You think about what the ramifications could be. So uh, AI will be replacing
Yeah.
people. So everyone learn AI, so
Yes.
we're not replaced by
Yeah.
it.
100%. I fully agree with you. And it's funny you talk about the credits because, the licensing model versus, well, nobody needs a license. You just pay credit. So it sounds great. And then you
Mhm.
start going, oh, wow, to get a mobile number out of Clay, it's like 12 credits. So I'm like, oh, I guess we're keeping the Zoom Info API key. So, like, the way we've got ours set up is it hits Zoom Info first to try to
Yeah.
find the mobile number. And
Yep.
then it goes along. Like, we only ask Clay for the mobile number at like the last step in the workflow.
Exactly.
Those are the kind of things you really have to think about and have somebody who's and they're good, like their onboarding's great about advising you on that. So we've had a great experience with our onboarding, and they'll tell you like, hey,
Same.
here's how to save credits, and here's where to be careful and stuff. So I definitely, as we're going through this process, we're learning a lot along the way, and we're doing a lot of tests before we push something on a broad
Yes.
scale, because there is a risk there in the money that you spend. And to your point, like, you could have an oops, and now all of a sudden you're spending more than an FTE in credits. So I'm wondering, you made me think of, like, I'm wondering, and we're in the same boat here because you already divulged that you sold pagers and I sold yellow pages advertising. But if you remember, like, when I remember when I first had like my Nokia AT&T phone, and it was like by the minute, and I remember, like, I don't know, it must have been like 20 something, 21, 22 or something. I got this bill. It was like $900 for my cell phone bill because it was like by the minute and I'm on the phone all the time, and then there were roaming charges and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if, 15, however long from now, I don't even want to say how freaking long ago that was, but I'm wondering if we'll look back and like it'll all be different. But it feels like that right now because you have to be really, really careful about that. Because these companies, they know you're replacing humans with this stuff. So it's like, hey, let's
And also
charge
the
for it.
truth is that AI is expensive, right? I mean, we are as BirdEye, as a company, we're building our AI product. It is
Hmm.
expensive,
Yeah.
and neither party fully understands the overall cost. That's why everyone is cautious, and that's why I love Gong because it's not a paid ad, but it can be.
Hmm.
They roll out this AI features as part of your subscription. They're not charging it for it yet, so
Hmm.
you can experiment. You can get a taste of it. I'm pretty sure it's gonna evolve and change in the future for them how they price
Yeah,
it.
don't jinx it if they're not
Don't-
charging for it right now.
yeah, they're not charging for it yet. A lot of companies, though, they start like without giving you a POC
Yeah.
or giving you sort of a taste of it, they start
Yeah.
charging. And there's just
Yeah.
so many unknowns with AI, and I'm not
Hmm.
ready to buy what I
Yeah.
can't see.
Yeah, I mean that makes total sense, and there's a much bigger risk too for you as large of an organization. So you have to be very strategic about how you're deploying and how you're rolling out. I think you kind of answered the leadership a little bit here, but what are the expectations leadership has of you when it comes
Yeah.
to AI?
And now with AI again, it intensifies, right? So they expect us to move fast, to own it, to be resourceful, to be able to make decisions within constraints, not wait for the perfect set of data or the perfect response from whatever stakeholder you're dealing with, be able to make decisions, say, with only 70% of data available. Um, Predictability. That is the number one. Forecasting, cleanliness, sales process, tight execution, clarity, I think is the word for 2026. Predictability. The numbers that we report in this world, again, of AI, and we went through the all of the layers, right, that build up to that. We really need to be very clear. And the mutual action plans, if you think about all of the layers that are there, like you really need to be clear about your funnel milestones and what you eventually report to the board. They expect us to own our projects and our tasks that we are leading and focus on outcomes. So if I'm seeing that mutual action plans are out of date or next steps on the deal are not updated, my job does not end at me just saying that.
Hmm.
My job is to escalate and fix, right? So we're focused on the outcomes. My job is not just to be, everyone's asking, how do you sort of get that table at the executive stakeholder with executive stakeholders for revenue operations? How do you make it become really inflation? Stop reporting on things and
Hmm.
start acting on this thing. So
Mm.
this is where the problem is. If your job ends at just reporting that problem, you're never going to be influential. You need to take it further.
Right.
um, Take it to whoever needs to act on it or act on it yourself. Escalate and raise flags. So expectation is, all of that and more.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think you hit on something that is really important about the outcomes and acting on it and what are you doing with the information. Whether it's AI or anything else in revenue operations, it's you're having an impact on the outcome, on those KPIs, on the company blueprint. Everything should roll up to board level in some way, everything that you're working on, and remembering that in your communications. And you're a salesperson too, right? You're selling internally, and focusing on those outcomes that are meaningful is what's going to really have the impact. Not, can I build a cool dashboard or send this neat report in automation? That's just stuff you have to do and like information you have to have. It's what do you do with that information and how do you act on it?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
So I'm going to move to our rapid fire questions. So I put together some questions that, I asked AI, like, what are people in RevOps leaders, like, what are they asking about AI? And so I'm asking these rapid fire questions to every one of my guests. We've covered some of this, I think, in our discussion, but I'm going to rip through these questions and get your take on these. All right. So you ready to roll?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So, what's the first place you'd tell a RevOps team to start with AI?
Your data, so the cleanliness of your data, and then when it comes to sales process execution, deal inspection, pipeline hygiene.
Great. Is RevOps data actually AI ready today, or are most teams just automating garbage?
Most teams are automating garbage. So I still think most companies still have not figured out their first principles and fundamentals. And that's why I'm jealous that you actually get to have a control over what goes into your CRM. Uh, Garbage in, garbage out. Don't layer AI on top of bad data. You're going to get bad results.
Very, very true. What's one AI use case in RevOps you've seen actually work in the real world?
And it's working for us right now, what we just discussed, layering Gong on top of conversations and Salesforce and driving deal signals or deal risks from AI intelligence.
Excellent. How do you measure real ROI from AI in RevOps?
uh, Intensification brings you efficiency, hours back, right? Hours back, not just for revenue operations, but also for sellers. Our sellers, they are expensive folks. Maximizing their sales time, giving them more time to sell. That is the goal. Of course, quality, forecasting accuracy, data completeness, reduction in deal slippages. That is another layer there. And when everything paired correctly, you would see the ACV lift. If you clean your data, layer conversational insights on your pipeline reviews and your forecasting, and then add coaching and enablement to that, you would see the deal sizes go up.
Great point on the enablement, too. I like how you circle back to that. Last one here. Will AI replace RevOps, or will RevOps leaders who use AI replace those who don't?
A person with AI will replace a person without AI. I believe it's true for pretty much any go-to-market function. The RevOps teams will reduce in size. That is for sure. Will become leaner, more efficient, and therefore everyone needs to listen to your podcast and learn AI. Start learning it right now.
Yeah, that's exactly why I put this together. I'm leaning in and learning from every one of the guests and doing my own research. And I wanted to really share that with everybody. I've really enjoyed this conversation with you and just enjoy you in general. Can you tell everybody, are you doing any conferences coming up? Do you have any events, anything like that you're going to be out there doing?
Not yet. I'm doing some podcasts. There's going to be some virtual coffee talks that
Mhm.
I'm part of. I'm very excited about those. And I love that we got really practical. We said we're going to get
Yeah.
practical, and
Yeah.
we got really practical in this
Yeah.
conversation.
That's good stuff. Yeah. So definitely share if you have any links or any tips, anything like that. You send them over to me, and I'll drop them in the show notes, and we'll provide any resources necessary. But I just really, again, thank you for joining me. Thanks for indulging me in the conversation and for being just an amazing RevOps and enablement leader. You're just a great example out there of someone who's just really doing great work. Thank you,
Oh,
Olga.
thank you so much. Thank you, Sandy.
This has been another episode of AI Powered RevOps. Thank you so much for joining, and stay tuned for the next episode.